Hey, what's going on? Jason Rogers here. And in this video, I want to talk to you about the idea of a moat when making an acquisition or otherwise investing in a company. What is the idea of a moat and how does this work? Firstly, the idea of a moat is something I first learned from Warren Buffett. It's something I talk about a lot with one of my business advisors. And it's the idea that you have this disproportionate competitive advantage that really keeps other competitors from taking market share from you, right? That's this idea of a moat. If you think about a medieval castle, right? You've seen the images of the medieval castles, and you think of this big royal castle surrounded, of course, by a moat, which is essentially just a trench that's filled with water. I'm sure you've seen the stories where they put crocodiles or piranhas or something in the moat, such that if somebody tried to swim across the moat and enter the castle, they were eaten by the crocodiles or the piranhas or what have you, right? And it kept the king or the individuals living in the castle safe, right? And it's not so different in business. You want to have this competitive advantage that keeps competitors from taking your market share. And I want to share with you real quickly a story, actually the story of our first acquisition we made out in Nebraska. And I'll share with you this story because within it, you'll find that there were several moats that we found that actually really enticed us to do the deal. So first of all, we bought a manufactured housing community in Nebraska, and the first moat that really existed within that acquisition was a general industry-like moat. And this was really the fact that the government has kept people and currently keeps people from building new manufactured housing communities in this day and age, which means the supply is essentially capped. It's almost impossible to build more manufactured housing communities. And this is important, obviously, because it basically disallows new competitors from coming into the marketplace and competing with you. And the reason the government, as a side note, has capped supply is because manufactured housing communities, they basically cost municipalities and cities and counties more in taxpayer dollars than they contribute, right? They're basically tax negative entities, right? So they're great for the owners, for us as the operators, but they're not great for the municipalities. So the municipalities have said, hey, look, you can't build any more of these damn things. You can't build them. We say, no way, Jose. And of course, that means, again, competitors can't come in. So that's the first moat, right? That's an industry-related moat. We really like that. It's one of the reasons we're in the sector. Another moat is the fact that affordable housing is always in demand. People need a place to live. They need a roof over their heads, right? And so by definition, that's another moat. The fact that the demand is very inelastic. In good times, people want an affordable place to live. In bad times, people need an affordable place to live. It's always there. That's another moat. Here was another one. When I made about 30 calls to all the apartment houses and condos and single-family homes that were presumably for rent, I called all the landlords and all the property owners and said, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm looking for a place to rent, right? I was trying to figure out how much vacancy was there within about a 30 square mile radius of this acquisition target we were looking at. And literally, I kid you not, literally, I couldn't find a single vacant unit. Not one. Not one. Zero. That was another example of a moat. And as I talked to lenders and realtors and business brokers and other individuals in the local community in which we were thinking about investing in, I learned that indeed there was a lack of real estate inventory. Essentially, there was more demand, more renters than there were vacant units or total units. And so obviously being a property owner in this area is advantageous because there's more demand than there is supply. So right, obviously that one was a moat there where there's just not enough real estate inventory. That's another moat, right? So now we have multiple moats. We have the fact that you can't build more manufactured housing communities. That's a moat. We have the fact that in general, affordable housing is in high demand. That's a moat. We have the fact that locally, in the microeconomic level, there's literally no vacancies at the time of us thinking about buying this place. I'm calling all these property owners, hey, do you have a place? Nope. Hey, do you have a place? Nope. Hey, do you have a place? Nope. That's another moat. And then yet another moat is there's a big manufacturer next door to the acquisition target that we were thinking about buying, which of course was the Nebraska deal that we ultimately did. A manufacturer that hires approximately 2,500 people, that's been there for well over 20 years, that's owned by one of the largest companies in the United States of America. I believe they're the largest private company in the United States of America. They're massive. Massive. Just with the data I've given you here, you can probably figure out who is the owner of this manufacturing plant. And they've been there for decades. They're super strong. And the odds of them going bankrupt or stopping this operation, almost zero. That's another moat. And so that's really what a moat is. And ultimately, this is what you want to be thinking about when you're thinking about investing in a company, when you're thinking about buying a company, buying real estate, what have you. You want to think about how easy would it be for some other competitor to come in and gobble up your market share, right? And the harder it is, obviously, the better that is for you. This is what Warren Buffett looks for when he's going to potentially invest in a company. How stable and secure is this company in their position within the marketplace? How stable are they? Things you want to be looking for example, is how many other strong competitors are there locally and nationally or even internationally? What are the odds that some groundswell comes up from, say, the north, where this huge company comes up and just buys all the companies around you and buys up market share, and because they have economies of scale and they have a ton of purchasing power and they have a ton of cash, how possible is it that this company could come in and just wipe you out because they could essentially manufacture in a cheaper way, or they could, from basically making their back office operations cheaper, they could just do things in a cheaper way and offer a better service for less money to customers. Obviously, that would be something that would be very disadvantageous to you, the business owner, the small business owner, right? Another thing you want to be thinking about is how many different vendor opportunities are there in the marketplace for you? Right? Do you need to buy from a single vendor, or are there 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 different vendors that you could choose from? Obviously, if there's just one vendor and that one vendor decides to increase their price, you're screwed. That vendor has you in a noose, if you will. Whereas if there's 10 or 20 different vendors, if one vendor increases their prices, you just say, well, hey, Mr. New Vendor, XYZ just increased their prices. Will you do me the solid and charge me what they used to charge me? Sure. In fact, we'll give you a 5% discount for moving your business over to us. Great. We just save 5% on that specific cost, right? That's what you're looking for. You're looking for a lot of vendors. Same thing. You're looking for a lot of different customers. You don't want all of your revenue to be coming from one customer. You want your revenue to be coming from a multitude of different customers, so that if one customer leaves, well, no problem. We have a million others, or something to that effect, right? Also, you want to see how difficult is it for new competition to come into the marketplace. And we already talked about this with the manufactured housing sector, wherein it's almost impossible for somebody to develop a new manufactured housing community because of the fact that the government basically doesn't allow it, right? So in your business or sector, how easy is it for somebody to open up shop next door? The harder it is, the better. Sometimes it's difficult for people to start up because there's a large capital commitment, a large capital requirement to get into the sector. Sometimes it's the case because of government regulation. But what difficulties are there for a new competitor to come into the marketplace? That's huge. And then likewise, what do the micro as well as the macroeconomics say about your business and about the sector that you're in? Is the demand increasing on the local level for your business, for your product or service? How about nationally and internationally? Ideally, all of these things are uptrending. The demand is increasing, right? That's obviously something that you want. Same thing for the sector, right? Look at your specific business, look at the sector at large, look locally, look nationally, look internationally, look maybe at the state level. Ideally, what you're seeing is that there's more demand than there is supply. And obviously that's exactly what you want, because if there's more demand than what anybody's able to keep up with, then you can be, candidly, not the best, but still have great outcomes. And then when you're able to be the best, because that's obviously what you should be aiming for as a business owner, right? I mean, you don't want to be some screw off, you want to be the best, right? So when you are the best, and then there's all this demand, well, then you're going to just dominate. And that's the kind of an environment you want to be playing with. You want to have a disproportionate competitive advantage. Anybody who says you want to have more competition in business, I think they're crazy. No, you want less competition. You want to be the dominant force. You want to be the Walmart of 2000. You want to be the Amazon of 2020. You don't want to be fighting and fending off your position and constantly getting attacked. I mean, if you study history, you see that the empires that had these competition forces coming from the south or the north or the east or the west, they ultimately got taken down, right? That's the fall of the Roman Empire. The Germans from the north, groups from Africa, all these different groups were kind of taking their market share, if you will. They were taking their land, and eventually they were taken down, right? Yeah, the Franks from the west and all these different things, right? There was all these different competitors, and eventually they took down the Roman Empire. The Romans kind of did it to themselves as well, but notwithstanding, the principle remains. You want to be the dominant force where there's really no other competition. And when you have all these moats, you almost guarantee you're going to be successful for a long time. That's the kind of businesses we buy. That's the kind of businesses we look for. And if we don't see those clear moats, we don't play because we want to have a disproportionate advantage. You know, you go back to Warren Buffett's ultimate principle. Rule 1, never lose money. Rule 2, refer to Rule 1. That's the kind of business you want to buy. That's the kind of investment you want to make. It's really that simple. Look, if you like this video, thumbs it up, subscribe to the channel, and share your comments below. What do you like? What did you learn? What you want me to talk about next? We talk about business a lot here. We talk about M&A and investments a lot here. So be sure to subscribe. And again, share your comments below, and I'll talk to you in the next video.